took 28 games for her interactive to add a fast convo option.
Savannah? Is that you?
Nancy asks this while looking at Savannah's name. What is Savannah's phone icon supposed to be a picture of? It looks like random blue lightning.
A girl just a little older than you.
Jessalyn is 24. That is more than a few years older than Nancy.
After everything you did for me in Japan, I'll do it.
Savannah did basically nothing for Nancy in Japan besides tell Logan to translate an article and remember which room she stayed in. Nancy apparently never told Savannah that the hauntings at Ryokan Hiei and Castle Finster were both fakes. This makes 3 times that Savannah has quit a ghost hunting job because she's too scared. Savannah is a horrible ghost hunter.
For your sake, Wade's not skulking around. Or that loony bin reject, Harper.
Oh great, we got the gossipy ferryman. This ferryman is the only character in the game who speaks clearly and directly. Thornton Hall is 3 stories tall. Too bad we can't explore the 3rd story.
She seems to think there's a supernatural explanation to Jessalyn's disappearance.
A couple of days back, that would have earned an eye roll.
Jessalyn has been missing for a couple of days, so why was Savannah in such a rush to get Nancy here? Why didn't anyone get another charger in the past couple of days? Why didn't the police take this evidence?
Maybe you could channel all that inquisitive energy into...
Colton says Nancy is inquisitive before you have the chance to ask him any questions.
She loved her family more than anything.
No, she kinda hates them all.
You said, trust me, everyone does.
I know. I remember it like it was just moments ago.
It was the last thing you said. Nancy carries a gigantic cherry picker around Thornton Hall for several hours, and no one notices or cares. Hi, Jessalyn's mom. Where's Jessalyn's dad?
Why is everyone here? Shouldn't we be out searching for Jessalyn?
Exactly. If these people wanted to find Jessalyn, they would look for her instead of standing in place and doing nothing the entire game.
The entire staff is out combing the woods.
We never see any of them. There appears to be no way for Clara to contact the searchers and vice versa.
The police recommended a presence here. They said we'd have a better chance of noticing if something was off here, knowing the place and all.
This house has been abandoned for 24 years. How are they supposed to tell if anything inside is different? Who painted over the graves in Clara's portrait?
What is that? Are those graves?
Nancy asks about multiple graves, but only one grave is visible in the portrait. Who is the person in the background? If this island has been searched thoroughly, Nancy shouldn't be the first to find Jessalyn's scavenger hunt list. Leave the island and survive until morning are listed on the scavenger hunt, even though they are not items you can find. The scavenger hunt groups 9 different graves as one item. Jessalyn crossed off find the key to Charlotte's bedroom when she only found half the key. According to the list, Jessalyn and Addison didn't find a full window or a book on the family, even though they entered rooms with both of those things. According to the list, they did not enter the crypt, but they took a picture and a recording in the crypt. Why did Jessalyn hide her phone password in the grave scavenger hunt? When did Jessalyn sync her phone password with the grave scavenger hunt? The grave hunt isn't crossed off on the list, which means she hasn't done it yet. Either she forgot to cross it off the list, or she visited the island ahead of time just to set up this puzzle.
Anyway, Savannah had a package sent. I guess it must be for you.
Savannah's package doesn't appear until Wade tells you about it.
Any other alive or verifiably real people?
No.
Wade says no one else is here, when Clara claims many other people are here.
No need to jump, just me.
Wade is 2 feet away. How did Nancy not notice him approach?
You don't seem like a bad guy. Can you tell me why you ended up in jail?
You can ask Wade about being in prison before learning he went to prison.
Beauregard Thornton. Mean old codger.
Wade acts like he knew Beauregard, but Beauregard died long before Wade was born. These are Savannah's old notes. Why did she make a book cover and binding for them? Savannah's note says Nancy will look for Jessalyn during the day. Nancy doesn't do this. Why isn't Addison helping look for Jessalyn?
The tombstone portion of our scavenger hunt, there was something strange about it.
If you did the tombstone challenge, why wasn't it crossed off the list? Bess and Ned are together at all hours of the night every time you call them. Are they secretly dating?
Remember in Kyoto, you told me that ghosts are what people invent when an injustice can't be fixed?
Sounds me-ish.
Rentaro said that, not Nancy. Nancy is taking credit for smart things other people say? What a poser.
Are you working on the next book?
I've been running away from the next book.
How does Savannah still have a job? She runs away from every ghost hunting job she gets, and she hasn't written anything in years.
That door locked itself up tight the day of her funeral. There's not a key in this world that'll open it. I've tried.
Clara searched for the key to Charlotte's bedroom for years without luck. Nancy and Jessalyn both find the key without much trouble.
Who else was in that old portrait with you?
You know, hun, we had that covered up for a reason.
Which is?
Just grab it in the AM unless...
This was recorded in the AM.
Jessalyn!
Why did Addison record herself screaming for Jessalyn for 17 seconds? How did Addison record this? Jessalyn's phone is locked with a password.
I don't understand. Are you okay?
Who set the phone to record this conversation? Presumably, Charlotte wrote this puzzle. How did Jessalyn get it? Why did Harper bring Nancy into the investigation? Why not ignore her like everyone else? You know, the eerie singing is a lot less scary when the background music is also eerie singing. Nancy's blindfold magically disappears in this death scene. The Scythe kills Nancy for saying the rhyme wrong. How is that even possible? Inanimate objects don't respond to rhyming. A stranger grabs Nancy when she's blindfolded. She decides to go along with them, instead of struggling or taking off the blindfold. The Scythe falls after Harper brings Nancy out of the cellar for the first time. But if you try to open the cellar doors without solving the seeds puzzle first, the Scythe teleports back to the ceiling so it can fall and kill you. Who put the letters on all the portraits? Did Harper desecrate the family portraits for the sake of having a puzzle? Or did the Thorntons plan this puzzle decades in advance? This puzzle. Nancy finds a hidden passageway cliché. Nancy eats Jessalyn's Cocoa Kringle bar. Nancy is a jerk. There sure are a lot of Thorntons who aren't buried in the graveyard.
That there is Clara's mother. When Clara was about 10, Rosalie got real sick.
Wade says Clara's mother died when Clara was 10. According to this chart, Clara's mother died when she was 5. Jessalyn was born the year Charlotte died. Was Clara pregnant when she killed her cousin, or did she neglect her new baby to commit murder? What is the age difference between Jessalyn and Colton? All the dialogue implies they're close to the same age, but Jessalyn was born the year Charlotte died. Colton has memories of that night, so he must be much older than her. How did Jessalyn get the key to Charlotte's room? Harper wonders who Jackson was. Jackson was your grandfather, Harper.
This house is pretty run down. Are you sure it's safe to use that furnace?
No.
Nancy doesn't warn anyone about Harper using the toxic furnace.
Nothing's gonna get me in that house.
Wade says he will never go into the house, but then he goes into the house to look for Harper. Why did they get Wade to help look for Harper? Why not get Colton? He's much closer to the house. Nobody believes Nancy when she says she saw Harper. Why not? What does Nancy have to gain from lying about this? Nobody questions the fact that Nancy opened the locked secret passageway to the basement. The furnace and all the lights in the basement are turned on. Doesn't that prove someone else has been down here recently? This area was locked by the bottles puzzle. How did Jessalyn get here? Conveniently for Nancy, Jessalyn's camera has pictures of 5 puzzles she must solve. Nancy follows a scavenger hunt to fabulous treasure cliché. The letters in this picture are clear, even though this picture was taken before Nancy cleaned off the picture. Jessalyn took a picture of this column, but she didn't clear away the ivy to see what was underneath. Jessalyn left the path to the ruins open, but the path is closed when Nancy first arrives. Who closed it? How did they close it? Is this part of the hedge retractable? Why didn't this picture count as a skeleton photo for Jessalyn's scavenger hunt?
What's happening? I better get some rest.
Nancy is not concerned when she flat out faints at the end of each night. Nancy, that's not normal! Nancy passes out in the hidden tunnels, so how does she wake up in the upstairs area? This is where Nancy sleeps. Where do the rest of the characters sleep? Nancy sleeps on the floor, even though there are weird monsters running around on the floor. What is that weird armadillo thing running on the floor? It's creepy and weird and unexplained. Leave a flower for the ghost was on Jessalyn's scavenger hunt list, so technically it's unnecessary for Nancy to get a second note telling her to leave a flower for Charlotte.
It sounds like he's talking to Lexi.
Lexi.
Nancy realizes Colton is talking to Lexi 15 seconds after Colton says Lexi's name out loud. The first time Colton talks to Lexi, he walks away where no one can overhear him. The second time Colton talks to Lexi, he talks on the front porch where anyone can overhear him. Why didn't Clara overhear Colton's phone calls and vice versa? They are within earshot of each other.
Jessalyn? Are you sure?
She'd have to be. I mean, I haven't considered that she might not be yet.
Colton automatically assumes the worst of his kidnapped fiancée. Colton is a jerk.
I still don't understand what's going on. Why are you here?
To try to forget something.
Forget what?
I guess it must have worked.
The game honestly expects players to remember this weird blurb of dialogue 2 hours later.
I better copy this design.
How? Nancy doesn't have paper or a pen in her inventory. People have been desperately searching the entire island for days in hopes of finding Jessalyn, yet nobody checked the ruins. This puzzle is still in perfect working condition, even though Charlotte set it up 24 years ago. Nancy's ghost hallucination points out where important items are. It's very nice of the carbon monoxide poisoning to help her solve the mystery. How did Harper splice these images into this film? I don't see an editing station anywhere in her basement.
Why would you play that? Turn it off, now!
Clara tells Nancy to turn off the film when the film is already over. There is moss under the wallpaper here, but not here. Stacking items to reach something up high puzzle reused from Alibi and Ashes. Two-dimensional stacking puzzle helps Nancy get across a three-dimensional gap. Ruined ceiling conveniently waits to collapse until Nancy has written down the clue there.
Take this.
Is this Charlotte's?
Yes.
Wade randomly gives Nancy a vital clue from Charlotte. Wade will give Nancy this clue even if she's already solved the puzzle.
Savannah's talking to you about me? Don't suppose you could give me your number?
If Wade doesn't have Savannah's phone number, how did he ask her to solve the case? 1 or 2 coffin puzzles would be fine. 4 is pushing it. Tangram puzzle reused from multiple Nancy Drew games. Someone hid items in the coffins, then hid the coffin plates and clues about the plates all over the estate. It's never fully explained who did this or why. This puzzle.
That sounds bad. You gonna ask her about it?
I wouldn't get a straight answer.
Harper never gives you a straight answer about anything, Nancy.
The impression I get of Jessalyn is that she wouldn't just run away. Not for something silly like a wedding.
You've never met Jessalyn, Nancy. How do you know she wouldn't run away for a wedding? Charlotte's journal talks about a her without saying who she is. Why did Charlotte go out of her way to avoid spoiling the culprit's identity? This invitation says October 30th, 1989 was a Saturday, but in real life, it was a Monday. This puzzle. Harper warns Nancy that Wade is going to sneak into the hallway. How did she know he would do this? Why did Wade try to get in Charlotte's room? Nancy left the door to the room unlocked. Wade should have been able to get inside. Why does Wade have the key to the clock puzzle in Charlotte's room? Why can't Nancy talk to Wade about this? Wow, I found 5 problems with one scene. Moving on! How did Harper carve Nancy's name into this grave without Wade noticing? Wade is always in the graveyard. This puzzle. What exactly was Jessalyn doing in here? It looks like she's sitting in the dark, looking at the floor. How did Jessalyn get inside here? The button that unlocks the door was hidden in a coffin. Harper went through this passage to enter the crypt. How did she get through the locked door?
Wade hired me to help find you.
Really? Wade?
Yeah, he seemed really worried.
Oh, man. Our family's just a hot mess. What is wrong with us?
Jessalyn thinks there is something wrong with Wade wanting to find a lost family member. How is that wrong? If you don't help Jessalyn, she murders you. I feel uncomfortable about helping a murderer.
I'm not a bad person. I'm really not, you know?
Jessalyn says this right before she kills a stranger with little provocation.
This is your fault.
This is not at all Nancy's fault. If Charlotte's ghost is just a hallucination, how does it kill Nancy in two different endings? The game forces you to help Jessalyn here, but if you refuse to help Jessalyn later, the game accepts that as a legitimate option. Jessalyn is worried her mother might be a murderer, yet she has no problems murdering Nancy. Jessalyn wants to know if her mother's a killer, so she pretends to be kidnapped for a week. This doesn't make sense! Why does she think a fake kidnapping will prove her mother's guilt? What has Jessalyn been doing the past 5 days? Because as far as I can tell, she did absolutely nothing to investigate Charlotte's death.
I need you to get the necklace from my mother's briefcase.
Nancy does everyone else's chores cliché. Harper knows the necklace is vital to proving Clara's guilt. At the same time, she gave Nancy this puzzle, which leads to the necklace. Why didn't Harper get the necklace herself? The star tile was in the crypt, so she had ample opportunity to do so. Clara didn't leave the room any of the other times Harper sang. Why did she leave this time? Why does Jessalyn think this is the only way to get her hands on Clara's briefcase? I can think of at least 5 ways they could have gotten the briefcase without Nancy's help. How did Jessalyn get this puzzle to open up her mother's briefcase? This puzzle. Why does Nancy keep Jessalyn's secret? She told on Harper earlier.
Wait, hang on. So does this explain the ghosts?
Mostly. Jessalyn and Harper were dressing up as Charlotte.
How does Nancy know this? Neither Jessalyn nor Harper admitted to dressing up like Charlotte. In fact, Harper outright denied it. Where did the girls get Charlotte costumes?
It made it easy for them to move through the house without Clara knowing exactly who was there.
Why did they need to dress up like Charlotte to have access to the house? They already have access to secret passageways that no one else knows about.
I found the necklace.
Stole the necklace, Nancy. You stole the necklace.
I need you to get the necklace from my mother's briefcase. It's missing a front piece. I need you to find it as fast as you can. I'm going to need your help.
Jessalyn never does anything herself, the lazy pants.
What's it say?
I can't.
Jessalyn says she can't show Nancy the paper that was in the locket, then she leaves the paper out in the open where Nancy can read it.
I'm gonna go see her myself.
Jessalyn suddenly returns from a 5-day disappearance to confront her mother about Charlotte's murder. This is easily the most interesting scene in the entire game, but we never get to see it. Charlotte wrote Harper needs to know the truth. The truth about what? Instead of telling everyone the truth about Clara, Charlotte created a complicated series of puzzles on the odd chance Clara would kill her soon. Colton waits until the end of the game before giving Nancy the piece of paper from Charlotte. Instead of hiding this clue with all the others, Charlotte gave it to a random young child.
But I think I saw someone else there. The fire wasn't an accident. I never told anyone this.
Why not? This puzzle reused from Wolf of Icicle Creek. This puzzle. Charlotte was only 19 when she made her first will. Why did such a young person have a will? Why did she originally bequeath everything to Clara? Why did she change her mind 1.5 years later? Why didn't she tell Harper that she would be inheriting? Why didn't the witnesses ever come forward about the will changing? Why didn't the notary public come forward? This will implies that Charlotte inherited the business after her parents died, but they died when she was 16, who ran the company until she turned 18. Nancy can choose to let people die. This is out of character for her. Why can't Nancy and Jessalyn carry Harper? That would be much faster.
Colton and Wade aren't returning my calls.
When did Nancy get their phone numbers? Colton and Wade are in the ending only if Nancy saves Harper. How would they know if Nancy saved Harper or not? Neither man believed Harper was in the basement.
Nancy, my mother's upstairs. She's in the bedroom.
How does Jessalyn know this? Jessalyn, she is your mother. Why don't you save her while Nancy saves Harper?
The fire department traced the source of the fire back to the faulty furnace in the basement.
The fire started in the basement? But Nancy was in the basement the whole time and there was no fire there.
He hasn't return my calls.
Jessalyn doesn't have her phone anymore, and besides, the charger is broken. Of course she didn't return your calls.
Savannah wrote to say that she decided to try to reach him, but her letters were returned unopened.
How did the letters get returned? Savannah didn't leave her address. Basic fire safety protocols say you should leave a burning building immediately and let the firefighters help anyone who is still inside. If you do that, you get a bad ending. The game punishes you for being safe. The clock puzzle is now completely different, and the key is sitting on top of the mantle. Who messed the puzzle up from the last time we solved it? This puzzle.
I was able to pull Clara out of the fire just in time.
Nancy didn't pull Clara out. She walked out calmly. The house is burning! Here's what everyone's butt looks like.
She discovered Charlotte had changed her will.
How did Clara find out Charlotte changed her will? Considering that this event set the entire game in motion, I think we deserve an explanation. All of the hauntings in this game are hallucinations caused by carbon monoxide poisoning. This feels more like an excuse than a reasonable explanation.
Apparently, many of the ghosts in Victorian-era fiction may have been inspired by the effects of exposure to carbon monoxide from faulty heaters. I assumed the explanation would be reassuring, but in light of everything that's happened, I can't say it is.
Nancy gets the exact same carbon monoxide explanation in two endings. In the bad ending, she doesn't believe it. In the good ending, she does. Why does the carbon monoxide affect Nancy and Clara, but not Harper and Jessalyn? They spent more time indoors, closer to the source of the carbon monoxide. Why did the carbon monoxide affect people who never got close to the house? Did the furnace just happen to be running every time a random person broke onto the property? Nancy wakes up in bed animation reused from the start of this game.
Little known trivia about Ned Nickerson, I have a very large tongue.
This is Bess. I have taken Ned Nickerson as my hostage until George returns from New York. And Nancy, sorry if this is in bad taste. Considering that you're working on it. Coming soon to theaters everywhere. Voicemail, the movie. Accepting auditions after the beep. You've reached Bess. Please leave your message in the form of a compliment. Nancy! Nancy, you're breaking up. Is that you? I still can't hear you. Call back later. Nancy! Nancy? Ned, it's Nancy again. I wish she'd get her phone fixed.
Nancy, you're breaking up. Is that you?